you can't solve your problems with brute force all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't even align. It doesn't even make sense anymore. You have to find other ways to like communicate. And I think I've found that being vulnerable and also exercising restraint, I guess that's the Capricorn thing,
Yeah.
and not reacting to things in anger and in violence, to me now is more like the measure of my strength.
Welcome to Stars and Stars with Issa. This is the show where we look to the stars above with the stars below. I'm Issa Nakazawa, your host and resident astrologer, and I'm super excited for today's guest because I get to sit down in the studio with the one and only Vic Mensa. He's a Grammy Award-nominated, multi-platinum selling rapper and Chicago native. But more importantly, Vic is a father, he's a voice of the people, and he be at the gym. Vic just released his newest record, Sundiata, independently, taking complete control over his music for the first time in over 10 years. And if you've been following Vic on social media, then you already know, like a true Gemini, he really owns his voice. He's unapologetic, super open, and vulnerable about everything from mental health to keeping it real about past versions of himself, dealing with addiction, getting caught up in fame, fights, and a lot more. But since then, he's transformed through taking accountability, self-acceptance, and trusting the process. And in our conversation today, we dive into how his unique cosmic blueprint reflects and confirms this beautiful and complex journey. So let's get into the episode. Vic, how are you doing? Welcome to
good.
Stars.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it means a lot. I'm so juiced to have you. One of the things preparing for this is like, I do love how you rep being a Gemini. And specifically, I was really moved by you and Mick's song, The Word, and the last section of that video where you're talking to your son and
Stars, that's what I thought might have been connection.
Yeah, it was for me. I just feel like, honestly, you're someone who, for the longest, when I listened to your interviews, like you really have a deeper knowledge and connection with spirit, and you can really speak to it. Like, I love your facility with language, and we'll get into how that's part of your star map. But before we start, I just wanted to open with that question of like, what's your relationship to astrology and cosmology?
I'm Gemini, so I've studied Gemini.
Yeah.
And it's made sense of me.
Yeah.
That's what made me believe in astrology. I used to think it was bullshit.
Yeah, speak to it.
And then I, saw the tendencies of Geminis and their relationships and Cancers also in specific, because a lot of people in my life are Cancers. And I was like, oh shit, that's me and that's them. But, more recently, speaking about that video, I've been really inspired by Mali, my son's Mansa Musa.
Mm-hmm. And Sundiata.
Yeah, that EP is Sundiata. And the Dogon people of Mali have such advanced astrological knowledge that it's dumbfounded Western scientists for, the last 100 years. And so I did that video showing my son the stars and making those connections. Just based off my interest in the Dogon people, their information and their knowledge is so advanced, and they are aware of the presence of an invisible star, an invisible white dwarf star called Sirius B, that Western science couldn't confirm or deny until like 2005, and they've known about this for hundreds of years, and they got the information from some celestial beings called the Nummo, like in ancient times. It's just too cool. Like, I just love that shit. It's so fun,
It is. I know. Shout out to you and Jay Electronica for like weaving and encoding all of the verses with the Dogon knowledge.
Yeah, no, Jay Elect he been
When you said the Dogon, I was like, here we go. It's the tradition.
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely like the Dogon is one of those touch points of like some ancient African knowledge that like a real elite MC will probably put into a rap. Like a Jay Electronica, Mos Def type character.
All my faves.
They'll probably weave that in at some point.
But I think one thing that I wanted to, just express gratitude for is like, I feel like you've put language to my journey too, of having like a really important, insightful critique of organized religion's impact in transmitting white supremacy.
I bet organized religion is probably pretty weary of astrology, huh?
Yeah, although
or throughout history, I'm sure has been.
There's all sorts of references to the cosmos in the Bible and these texts. And so I've been, with this show, I've been asking people who are like Kojic or Baptist to be on it. And they're super open because, again, it's a way for us to all come to the conversation with our different kind of backgrounds and faiths and just have a conversation, which I feel like is what Gemini's gift is like convening those conversations without the moralizing. Like, that's one of my favorite things about Gemini is it's not here to be like the sage ethicist that says this is right, this is wrong. It's all about holding multiple registers of truth at once, which I feel like is something you've talked about in your Gemini videos and your references of like the twins idea or of like holding both and.
No, 100%. I mean, I'm still thinking about what you said about religion. Yeah. Just being newer to Islam and having been so skeptical of religion throughout my life and been so anti-religious and, finding my own way to the value in religion, but I'm still not drinking the Kool-Aid 100%, on any doctrine or any man-made system. But I'm more interested, like you said, in the cracks between and the intersections and the places where different spiritual traditions and different sects of thought intersect.
Yes.
Like where they overlap. When did y'all say the same thing? I'm believing that a little more.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we were talking about offline, like the convergence of all of these geographies and moments in history that have a resonance. So let's get into what your stars have to say, because they have to say a lot. And
please tell me.
Okay, so you are, for the listeners, we always share the big three. So you are, as we discussed, a Gemini sun, a Capricorn moon, which is one of my favorite moon placements to talk about, and a Gemini rising. So you have that doubling of Gemini rising and Gemini sun, which is beautiful. And so Gemini is the third sign in the zodiacal narrative. Aries is like that first burst of life. Then it hands...
Aries is the first one?
Yeah, Aries is the first one. And it's the first. When you think of Aries, it's like the shriek of life. It's the baby. It's the first sign of life. And then it gets handed off to the fixed sign, earth sign Taurus. And Taurus is the sustainer of life.
Taurus is the second one.
Taurus is the second.
Wow.
So we go from fire to earth, the sustainer, and then the sustainer hands it off to you, to Gemini. And Gemini is when the form of life starts to become conscious. So it starts to become aware. Gemini is an air sign. So it's the first moment of awareness of environment, of consciousness. And so what does it do? It creates language. It creates language as a way to connect, as a way to understand and make sense and process the world, and a way to like communicate with other beings. Because Taurus is still actually nonverbal. It's sensual. It's embodiment. And so Gemini moves to mutable air. And it's the first mutable sign of the zodiac. But yeah, the Gemini, I feel like Gemini typically is in modern astrology just thought of as twins. But I want you to think of it in like the Babylonian Sumerian tradition of the griot. Like that is really one of the calls of Gemini risings, is they're here to transmit messages. And in the Babylonian tradition, the god Nabu, who was the god of literacy, the god who would write the fates of man on tablets.
Dope.
But I want us to start here with just like, Gemini is ruled by that trickster planet Mercury. Mercury is really the messenger, the trickster. When did you first realize that words held a certain power and a certain magic to spellcast? Like, when was that moment where you understood that words were more than just communication?
I mean, I started telling stories when I was a child. I think I always had a knack for making up little songs and stories on family trips and entertaining myself in that way, and probably fell in love with music. I think music would be my real introduction into loving words. Well, I guess reading before that.
Oh, interesting.
I always loved to read, I just got it honest. My pops is a PhD professor.
Yeah, shout out Pops.
My mom is really educated too. And so just reading was huge in my home. And my older sister could read real books by the time she was like 3 or something like that. And so I saw that, and I think we all are just very literate people. We love reading. So first story I wrote that was really dope was my young authors book in 6th grade.
Oh my gosh.
We had this program, Young Authors, where you would write a book, and it was your end of the year project.
Yeah.
So we had recently had a group of Somali immigrants come visit and stay with my family through a sister church program. And I wrote a book called The Long Way Home about a Somali immigrant in America who was experiencing this new this new life and flashing back to the war in Somalia that led them to become a refugee, and the village being raided, and like heavy stuff like rape and homes burning and just like real shit, you know. But this was Vic. This was my 6th grade young authors book. This should explain to y'all why I'm always talking talking too much about some over serious shit, because I was doing that 20 years ago. What are you, 12 and 6th grade? So 20 years ago, this was my young authors book to anybody on the internet wondering why the fuck I'm this way.
You came out this way. The stars confirm
I've been doing this shit.
That's why I was so juiced to talk to you about your Cat Moon, because I've never heard you reference it. And I'm like, he needs to get in
Cat
tune.
Moon? No, I don't know about the Cat Moon, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a contrast to Gemini, because Gemini is, when you think of Gemini, I want you to think of something similar to Aries. Like Aries and Geminis get along so well because they're fast. They're fast energies. Geminis and Aries know how to create movement. They know how to like manipulate, not necessarily in a negative sense, but they can as well, like a story or a moment. Whereas Cap is ruled by the planet Saturn, the timekeeper. So Saturn is all about limits. It's the planet of no. It's the planet of endurance. It's the planet of, we actually can't do that right now because we have to think about the next 10 years. You know what I mean? Like Aries is more about, what do I want right now?
Yeah, I know.
Your voice dropped 10 registers. Cap, for example, is a cardinal sign that initiates deep winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So think about initiating and preparing for the winter. That's Cap. Like Cap is like, nah, we can't use all of the food, because what about in 60 days? We're going to need to ration that.
So which sign is my Capricorn?
Your moon, your emotional body, your emotional needs, the core innermost desires. And the moon moves it's the fast planet. So like the sun changes signs every 28, 30 days. The moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So your moon sign is so important to get in touch with, because it's really those core needs that you need to fulfill to even get to the vitality of your sun. But I think something I'm curious about is these like multiplicities of time signatures in who you are, because your Gemini moves so quickly, but your Cap slows that way down. So I'm curious if you can share like an anecdote or a moment of like when you, even recently, like when you had to slow down through circumstance or through actually choosing it consciously, and how that like slowing of your quickness made you either more present or pay attention to things that your Gemini can override.
Having a child will really make you slow down.
Yeah.
And obviously speed up in ways, but you have to be much more present, which I think is already something that I struggle with, because my mind is in so many different places and contemplating so many different possibilities and potentialities. But I have this baby boy in front of me that I have to pay attention to. And in a tangible sense, like he could touch the stove, but in a more holistic sense, I have to be present to be his father and give him what he needs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that makes you slow down, and also changes the concept of time in a lot of ways, because my time is not just my own. Whereas I used to be in the studio 12 hours, be like, man, okay, today I'm going to be in the studio like from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. At a base minimum, I need to be spending some time, a couple hours with him, giving his mom a break. So that's forced me to slow down a lot, and, you know, has pushed back like certain goals of mine and album I've been working on for what feels like a long time now. But I think at the same time, it's maybe inspired me to find other avenues of creativity and like other ways to fill the space. Like, and I started doing a lot more on social media, being more present online, which is kind of the antithesis of being present in real life. But at the same time, it's been valuable for me because it's been kind of like, okay, I'm not done with this album yet. What can I do right now? You know?
Yeah.
I can maybe introduce the world to where I am now, or just express the way you do with this show, your beliefs.
One of the things I've been enjoying about a lot of the things you're making is I'm laughing my ass off. I'm learning something new about you, but also I feel like you give voice to the contradictions of yourself in such honest ways. Like, one of the questions I have is like, what was a contradiction that you had that you felt like at some point you needed to not reconcile, but like you've spoken so well about like moments in your Gemini bag where you were like, I'm like getting off on something, whether it's like stealing from, you know, whatever, and being like, yeah, politically that makes sense, but I also don't want to do that anymore.
Stealing is a good one.
Yeah.
Stealing is a good one, man. I grew up stealing
you talk
profusely.
About it so often.
Such a serious thief.
As was I. Yeah.
Ever since I learned in 5th grade that you could steal, my homies took me to the White Hen little bodega type store, and we surrounded the rack with the gum on it, and we just filled our pockets. Ever since I learned you could do that, I was like, oh, you could just leave without paying? Why would I pay for anything?
Right.
So I stole everything, man. You know what I mean? Like expensive clothes. I used to steal out of like real high-end store. I can say it there because they don't even exist anymore. I used to steal out of Barney's in like grammar school.
Which had a moment. Barney's had a huge moment.
Yeah, Barney's was the one.
It was the one.
Then once I got money, that's where I used to shop. But you also used to steal there. Like steal seriously, like fire shit, you know? Acne, goddamn it. Like I'm wearing now, same shit I was wearing.
You're gonna be like this.
I stole this.
Like I stole. What's that Urban Outfit? Yeah.
No, I used to steal a lot, and one of my justifications, although it was kind of paper thin, because I also stole from smaller stores, but one of my justifications was like, man, this is corporate. You know what I mean? Like, I have no sympathy for corporations. You know, and
but the bodega gum.
I didn't feel like I was wrong if I stole from Urban Outfitters. So I always stole. And when I started practicing Islam, same time I stopped drinking, same time I stopped smoking cigarettes for real too. And when I stopped stealing, because there's this concept in Islam that everyone has 2 angels on their shoulders recording everything they do. And that even if you get away with something in the physical, in the flesh, like cosmically, karmically, you don't get away with it. And realizing that my actions, they have a ripple effect, you know, through the stars or through God or the universe, whatever one believes, that good deeds come back to you, and things that you know in your heart are wrong, they also come back to you, even if, you know, Urban Outfitters doesn't catch me. You know,
I love
like,
that so much.
I know how I feel. I know there's a little something, and it's a rush. I'm getting off on it.
Yeah,
I'm getting off on breaking this rule, breaking this law. I have no concern for like U.S. law, but spiritual law. You know, it's like when you break that, then you know there's consequences. And so I just started to be very intentional about where I can. Like when I meditate every day, intentional about where I can doing the right thing. And when I meditate every day, I have this moment in this Wim Hof meditation I do when I'm Om chanting 21 times.
Wow.
And I help to keep the count by having rhymes for the different words. You know, like 1 is the sun, 2 is true, 3, I'm grateful because I'm free. When I get to 19, I say, 19, do the right thing, where clearly definable. Because obviously sometimes you don't know.
That's so Gemini. Where clearly definable is amazing.
For real, because sometimes you don't know. You know,
yeah, no, it's real. It's real.
Sometimes you don't really know. And man, intuition is such a difficult concept for me because as a Gemini, I feel all these polarities popping up to me,
yes.
oftentimes simultaneously. And it's hard for me to sometimes decipher what is my first mind. But then sometimes you clearly know. So I try to do the right thing where I can.
And I love meditation, or I love practices for Gemini as the bridge or as the container to facilitate getting in touch with that sound, because it's such fast energy that having a meditation, it's like a bridge that somatically gets you in your body so that you can feel the truth. Because sometimes with air signs, the truth is like lost or found in ideas. And so it's like embodying that idea again can help through the chanting. Like I think somatic work is really good for air signs.
No, it's so good. And I mean, that's kind of the differentiating factor is feeling the truth, because an intellectual understanding of it will not do it for you.
Nope.
And that's something that I think I'm constantly working on, is that I've mastered intellectually a lot of concepts of,
You have.
like, fucking manifestation and, presence and mindfulness, but feeling them, knowing them in a deeper sense is much more difficult. Sometimes it takes like a really cataclysmic event, like an ayahuasca or mushrooms or something to like bring me into a true spiritual knowing, or like a childbirth, or what I'm saying, or great loss or grief, or a true test to bring me into a spiritual knowing. Sometimes it be those times when I'm like, oh, this liability could actually take everything from me. This moment, this thing I'm dealing with, this thing I'm facing could destroy everything that I think I have. Can I be okay with the possibility of no longer having that, no longer having certain income streams?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Of no longer having certain opportunities. Can I believe that my destiny is written in a positive light, based on obviously my right action? Can I believe in a good future for myself, even if everything crumbles, if I lose this, if I lose that, if it's all gone? You know what I'm saying?
That dynamic is so alive in your chart. Your Capricorn moon is in the 8th house of transformation, and the 8th house is a place that transforms in the dark, but it also transforms through crisis. So it transforms in the moments where other people might not know how to rebirth themselves or transmute that pain. Like your moon actually knows exactly what to do with it, even if not in an intellectual way. Because the 8th house is a water house. So it's actually like transmuting into a feeling of, okay, we gotta work with this reality. We gotta work in these new sets of conditions. And that process, I'm sure, is fraught, is complicated, takes time.
That's what you gotta do, dog.
I'm also curious about an example. So your moon is, like I said, it kind of governs and presides over your emotional nature. And so I was thinking of another Gemini rising, Bell Hooks.
Damn.
And
Bell Hooks is a Gemini?
Gemini rising, like you. Bell Hooks wrote Will to Change.
Yeah.
And has this line, learning to wear a mask is the first lesson in patriarchal masculinity that a boy learns.
Damn, she said masculinity. She hit that.
Gemini rising.
That's crazy.
Boys learn self-betrayal early and are rewarded for these acts of soul murder. And very not casual writing, but which is we love. But I was thinking about.
She's the greatest.
She is. And I've been loving the way that you're also bringing language to vulnerability. And I'm not going to lie, like having a Cap moon is difficult in terms of that. Like your moon is literally ruled by Saturn, which is like about restraint and is actually about disciplining your emotions. So Cap moons can be incredible when it comes to martial arts or the gym or doing something hard and having to, having to go without, like I said, sacrifice. But it's not the greatest when it comes to letting that fear go, letting that expectation go. And I'm so moved by your ability to like live that or speak that. And so I'm like, what were some moments relationally, let's say, like, let's keep it in the like personal relational, where you had to take that mask off and you felt like it put you in contact with something true and deep that you hadn't shared yet?
Reading Bell Hooks, We Real Cool, that just dissected all of my ideas about masculinity. I felt like she read me down.
Yeah.
She was like, you're fixated with violence because of this. You want to dominate because of that. You are not treating people right because of this. And I definitely still struggle with vulnerability all the time.
Yeah.
And I spend more time paying attention to things that people say about me than I should. I saw one yesterday. That was talking about, I saw a comment yesterday was talking about when I was crying about the music industry and it being like, whatever, exploitative structure. And I think I was talking about war in Chicago. Trump's declared war. And the person was like, man, you crying ass little bitch.
What imaginative comment.
And I was like, man, why do I even read this stuff? Because still within me, though, the conflict is rife. The conflict is very rife. I felt really bad about, being that vulnerable in front of the world. And my intrinsic understanding of one of the deeply held beliefs about masculinity for me is completely rooted in violence. 100%. I'm from such a violent place. I've lived a very violent life. I've always been extremely violent since like really young, like I've been training martial arts since I was 5 and fighting a lot and fucking catching cases and doing all. So when somebody calls me a crying ass little bitch on the internet, I'm like, I want to tell them how tough I am. Like I could really fucking fight, And I just see the way like those things like they fucking poke at my little insecurities, because that's the ways I was taught by my environment, not necessarily my home at all, but like by my environment in Chicago was like. And you know what too, for me, reliance on violence was always just a way of masking shame and pain and feeling ostracized, being African and white and not necessarily fitting in. And once I got to a certain age and I realized, I could just be violent and I'll be respected. You can't solve your problems with brute force all the time. Yeah. It just doesn't even align. It doesn't even make sense anymore. You have to find other ways to like communicate. And I think I've found that being vulnerable and also exercising restraint, I guess that's the Capricorn thing, and not reacting to things in anger and in violence, to me now is more like the measure of my strength.
And you've been using the word peace a lot too. I mean, that's also like more peaceful, that like you're not reacting to every cue. You know what I mean?
I think being peaceful is the ultimate measure of strength. I had a situation from my past pop up, and somebody who had stolen from me and they came back and I thought they were trying to reconcile, and they turned out to be like, still fuck you, what I mean? And in my face and being like, yeah, because you a bitch, this, that, and the third, like basically like the guy on Instagram. You crying ass little bitch, and I was just like, man, God bless you, man. And I just walked away. And he was walking behind me and he was like, yeah, because I'm a fucking come to Soho House, and find you.
You need to turn that into a skit, not Soho House.
And I was just like, I was like, I've never in my life walked away from a nigga calling me a bitch. Like walked away. I'm walking away and I'm just like,
what did you feel inside? It was hard.
Man, it was so hard. It makes me want to cry right now just thinking about it. It was so hard. And the communication continued and I'm like, man, God bless you, have a nice life, and blocked him. And he kind of was spiraling out for a second, but it crumbled within a couple days. It was like, this is done. You know what I mean? Like we're not, something didn't happen here that now you feel like you need more revenge for or something. This is done. I'm not like dealing with it anymore. And it was like such a revealing experience for me, because I was like, I could deal with this like this the whole time. Like I don't have to be, living my life in this cycle of action and retribution, of violence and retribution. That's Chicago's whole fucking thing, is we all living in the cycles of violence and retribution to where you forget what was the initial violation. You just know that like we're in this cycle, and like we don't know how to break it.
One of the things that's interesting too is like there's parts of our chart that serve us in certain environments, right? So like my ability to fight, okay, that serves me in these environments. But sometimes those skills actually don't serve you in like romantic love or in trying to like reveal yourself to someone to create intimacy. So that doesn't have to be romantic. That could be your relationship with Chance, your relationship with Aja, right? Like, I think that's why I'm curious about you, because from the outside, you've had these platonic relationships with women that have like seemingly from the outside, you've been really open to being transformed through that. So can we talk, I always want to hear men talk about that, like those platonic relationships to women that crack open something within you that makes you realize the information you were reading from Belle, but it's like the bridge to make you understand it from an actual visceral place.
Word, yeah. That's definitely my relationship with Aja. I mean, so many of my closest relationships are women. Like, I've always had very close friends that are women. And I think that that's given me perspective, because they're able to hold space for me and understand my contradictions and like not judge me, but also push me to be a better person. You know what I'm saying? And that's like what Aja, what role she's played in my life. She just happened to like move around a corner from me when I was 16, and she was like 21 going to the Art Institute. You know, so I used to just go over there and hang with her, and she would give me books and give me like Malcolm X, and she probably did give me bell hooks.
Probably.
You know, all type of shit. Huey Newton and Asada and Angela Davis. And, you know, I would just go over there selling my little weed. I was trying to impress them and put my weed in like a special Nike lace bags, Nike SB lace bags. That was my
that's pretty fly.
That was my packaging bag. It was fly. It was definitely fly. People was like, man, damn, okay. But you know, just through time, like Aja has just always been there and guided me and spoken life into me. And you know, times when I was very kind of misguided or disillusioned or depressed, consumed with fame and money and
of course
pain, you know, be like just a light in my life. And times when I thought I was right, but I'm crashing out, be like, man, what are you doing? Why are you making enemies of everyone everywhere? You know what I mean? Like,
great question.
Don't do that.
Do you feel like those relational skills, like the platonic relationships, like transfer relationally into romance? Or do you feel like, because you had that reel that I felt like a lot of people connected to around like vulnerability can also be hard for women to receive from a man, because we also internalize and gatekeep.
All the women on my post was like, not true. We don't do that.
I was like, it is true.
You just don't know the right women. I was like, all right.
All right.
Let's talk about
really
it. Why don't you ask any man?
Yeah.
You know, but it's hard with men and women, man, because we're from Venus and Mars, bro. Like,
stop.
I'm sorry.
I like that tie-in.
No, for real though. It's just like, man, women will feel en masse one way, and men often feel the other way. You know, I think that what was I talking about? How like how men or women sometimes say they want vulnerability from men, but can't all the way handle it, or makes them uncomfortable too. I mean, it makes us all uncomfortable. Vulnerability makes men uncomfortable 100%.
I know we were talking about what's the difference between what you are, your sun sign, and your ascendant. And your ascendant is really like it steers your ship of your chart and it orients the ephemeris, which is the wheel. So it's like it gives the direction. It's kind of like the clef of a sheet of music. So it sets the pace.
Oh, really?
So you're Gemini, but Gemini is ruled, every sign in the zodiac has a planet ruler, and yours is Mercury, which we were talking about is like that Babylonian god of Nabu, the messenger, the griot. And your natal Mercury, where Mercury is placed in your chart, is in Cancer. And I thought that made a lot of sense for you, because even with Sundiata and your new album, there's so much about where you are right now and where you've been that's at the continuum of all these different lineages. And Cancer in the zodiac is the emotional historian. It's the archivist of feeling. It's the person who knows that memories are not just facts. They're laced with emotional effect. They're laced with expressions, and they're not just they're not just data, you know, they're also like soulful.
Cancer's so emotional.
But you have Cancer in you.
Yeah, I'm emotional as hell.
And your voice just changed to whisper.
Bruh.
Talk to me about that though, like where you're at right now with just like holding these being this kind of emotional archivist for your people and giving language and giving kind of a voice to all of these different stories.
That's all I'm trying to do, you know, is to like try to channel the most profound emotion through words. And if that's like something funny, you know, something that'll make you laugh, or something that could make you cry, or at its absolute best, one piece that can do both.
Yes.
Like that's the fucking sweet spot. So that would make sense that's the pursuit of Cancer, because that's fully what I try to do, and that's when I know I'm doing something good. Is when it either makes you laugh or makes you cry.
Absolutely.
And in art, great. In life, difficult.
No, but still important.
Important, very important. I mean, emotion is so important. You have to be in touch with emotion. I guess it just having that Cancer can be a little bit, it could be overwhelming, man. You know what I mean? Like to live in so much emotion all the time. Like, you know, shit. Sometimes I want to be like stoic, you know? And I guess that's probably why I do study things like stoicism and,
Cat Moon.
you know, the meditative practices and things to try to remain grounded, because emotion is wonderful. Being ruled by emotion is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, like being at the mercy. Oof. Being in tune with emotion is beautiful. Being ruled, controlled by emotion is a horrible fate. Like, I do not want to be at the mercy of my emotions, but I want to be able to wield them, and I want to be able to like understand them and accept them and convey them, you know, and be guided by them, but not like at the end of a whip. It's
been a pleasure, Vic. And if you want to just shout out Sundiata and any other ways we can stay connected with you and your amazing work.
Yeah, you can go to vicmensa.com. You can get my latest project. It's called Sundiata. It's only available from me for now. I mean, yeah, just, you know, check me out anywhere. Just Vic Mensa on any channel.
That was Vic Mensa, who is a Gemini sun. As always, to end the show, I want to leave you with some key takeaways we can all benefit from, inspired by our stars chart. Okay, so today we did a deep dive into all things Gemini, since Vic is both a Gemini rising and sun. And on the show, I like to highlight both the gift and the shadow expressions of each sign, just to keep things honest and balanced. So first of all, Vic embodies the very best of Gemini because he celebrates the contradictions that swirl within him. And in a recent post, Vic gave voice to this exact dynamic, saying, quote, "All my life, I've been told I can't be of conflicting identities. I can't make rock music because I'm a rapper. I can't wear a dress because I'm a man. I can't be Black because I'm white. But I'm everything." And that really embodies the Gemini spirit of both and. So here, Vic is giving us all permission to embrace our complexity and refuse to choose one aspect of ourselves over another. But then we explored some of the challenging sides of Gemini energy, which can be found in its moral ambiguity. So unlike its opposite sign, Sagittarius, Gemini is not motivated by being right. It just needs the freedom to stay curious. That said, sometimes air signs like Gemini can rationalize their erratic behavior by justifying certain actions intellectually without taking accountability for the real consequences of their behavior. So, for example, Vic reflected on his past habit of stealing and how he initially justified it politically as a defiant act against corporate greed. But then he encountered Islam, and he was introduced to an alternate authority, one of spiritual and cosmic law, in which our actions create a karmic imprint. So whether or not we respect the corrupt systems that rule our daily lives, we can still choose to move with intention, knowing our actions create a ripple effect in the universe. So now Vic taps into his Cancer Mercury intuition, which allows his emotional truth to ground his Gemini tendencies in what feels right, even when his Gemini wants to stir up some good trouble. That's it for our download from the cosmos this week. If you liked today's episode and resonated with anything Vic or I said, please leave a comment to keep the convo going. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next week.